And we're back like we never left. Welcome to episode 147 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your early Monday evening here with me in New York. If you check out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Spotify or iTunes, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. So sometimes even a old school movie savant such as myself gets taken by surprise and finds out a little piece of trivia just kind of went past me, or I was not exposed to it in the first place. Francis Ford Coppola's arguable masterpiece. Not everybody is as high on the Godfather films. Someone was recently telling me that they thought the movies were okay, but that the book was better. You know, every book is always better. But Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation, which was a movie that he wrote and directed in between the production of the two Godfather films, the first two, the Godfather 1, 72, and Godfather 2, 74. Well, The Conversation was also 1974, early in the year. It was released to theaters in the United States 50 years ago yesterday. So the movie's almost as old as me, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It's not the movie that you think it's going to be if you just read the description. And this is a very important distinction because there's an actor in this movie that made another movie in the following decade that is another film that if you just go by the description and look at the critical reviews and the rapturous praise and the awards and the way that it's considered historically very significant, the assumption is it's going to be an exciting film. Harrison Ford plays a key supporting role in The Conversation. He plays the lead in Blade Runner. That's the second of the two movies where if you just read the description, it sounds like a different movie than what it actually is. And if you read the plot description for The Conversation, it'll go something like, a world-renowned wiretapper begins to suspect that the young couple he has recorded are in danger of being murdered. Sounds very exciting. It sounds mysterious and action-y and thriller-ish. Well, this movie is not that. Blade Runner, the plot description of that one would go something like, a futuristic detective is tasked with tracking down 6 renegade robots intent on destruction or some bullshit like that. Blade Runner is not an exciting film. It has action elements. It has thriller elements. But it's sci-fi through and through. It is not a thrilling film. It has thrilling moments. It has moments that drop our jaws in wonder and awe at the world that Ridley Scott and his people were able to put together, and Harrison's incredible performance, especially in the director's cut. Excuse me. But The Conversation has thriller elements. It has mystery elements. It has little tiny bits of action elements. But essentially, it's an intimate character study. Now, I am among many film fans who was very upset when Gene Hackman, who's still around, they're still taking pictures of him. He was out with his wife a couple of weeks ago. Gene Hackman is an acting GOAT. Unquestionably, there are very few people that will dispute the idea that this guy wasn't an absolute home run hitting legend of a film actor. And Gene Hackman's been retired now for more than 2 decades. And yeah, he's too old now to work. I get that. He's not Clint Eastwood. But the cinematic world missed probably another 10 years of what could have been terrific Gene Hackman films and performances. Now, I love French Connection. What he does as Popeye Doyle, I think The French Connection is a little bit overpraised. It's still really good. It's a terrific movie. And I like what Gene, as in the main part of Popeye Doyle, and Roy Scheider I love. It won Best Actor for him. It won Best Picture. But if I had a vote, and I don't, Clint Eastwood is better in Dirty Harry than Gene. I'm sorry. Gene is a better actor than Clint. But if you put the two performances side by side, come on. Clint fucking crushes that part. And his character, to me, actually makes more sense than what Gene does as Popeye Doyle. It's Popeye Doyle based on a real guy. The character's a little inconsistent. This guy's not inconsistent. He's one way here, and he's one way here. Do you feel lucky, punk? Do you? But I digress. Hackman won hardware for The French Connection, and then he won hardware for Unforgiven with Clint. Clint won picture and director, and Gene won supporting actor for Unforgiven for films released in 1992. Now, Hackman's performance in Unforgiven, to me, is better than what he does in The French Connection. Again, this is purely subjective. This is just my opinion. If I'm asked the question, what is Gene Hackman's finest bit of film acting? The answer is Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation. Gene is extraordinary in this film. And what I'm trying to say by way of pointing out that don't just read the box or you Google it, because it was on Netflix, and a lot of people saw it when it was on Netflix and probably were bored in the first 20 minutes and turned it off. You have to know what you're getting into. Let yourself, rid yourself of the idea that the movie is going to be exciting. And yes, it has thriller elements, but I'm telling you, it's not a thriller. To call it a thriller is a stretch, a huge stretch. If you go in expecting a quiet, melancholy, meditative story on a brilliant man, a groundbreaking, pioneering type of individual in the world of the film who has figured out ways to record conversations, be no big deal today, but he was coming up, his character of Harry Call comes up with ways to record conversations that for the time, it's like he didn't even have the equipment to be able to do this correctly, and he was able to do this correctly. Gene plays Harry Call, probably the best wiretapper in the world. And his character is hired by a mysterious company, and a mysterious head of the company was played by the always amazing Robert Duvall. And Harrison Ford, very young, Harrison's maybe 30 or 31. I don't know if he had actually made American Graffiti with Francis Coppola's buddy George Lucas yet. See, there's a little bit of trivia I don't know. I think that he had already shot American Graffiti when he played this part in The Conversation, but I'm not sure about that. But Harrison kind of plays the point man, the contact in between who Gene is ostensibly working for. And, he gives him the assignment and the tapes and the money and all of this sort of stuff. The movie is pretty breathtaking in the way that it shows in explicit, excruciating detail how Gene does what he does. The people he has working with him, everyone fulfills a certain function. I mean, you think about it, out of context. You have two people walking in a crowded park. It could be New York, Central Park. It could be Chicago. It could be San Francisco. It could be anywhere. This is 50 years ago, now 50 plus years ago. And Gene Hackman has to get a conversation between two young people walking through a park. And he doesn't know who they are. We don't know who they are. The actors who play the young couple, great actor who just recently passed, Frederick Forrest. Love that name. It's a great name. But he was a terrific film actor. And Cindy Williams, who later on was Laverne and Shirley with Penny Marshall. That was, her big TV. She became a big TV star. But he records this conversation, and another extraordinary actor who passed very young, John Cazale, who worked with Coppola in the Godfather films. None of this is a coincidence. You work with people you love and respect and get along with. And John Cazale, unbelievable. Cazale is with him in their kind of headquarters, and then he has other people out in the field using microphones and like hidden stuff to try to record this conversation. So he succeeds incredibly with, I don't even know how many people around. He's able to isolate precisely the conversation that these two people have. And they don't really talk about anything in particular. They're just having random chatter. They see a baby. They see an old man. They're walking through a park. This guy over here is a little suspicious. They act like they think they might be in the process of being followed or tailed or recorded or something. They're nervous. But what Gene fixates on is one line that he's not quite sure if he gets, and he isolates and isolates and isolates, and it's Frederick Forrest delivering the line, "He'd kill us if he had the chance." And then you get into the kind of brain teaser of, did he say he'd kill us if he had the chance, or did he say he'd kill us if he had the chance? And that becomes very important in the world of this film, because Gene, who has unfortunately an incident in his past where somebody ended up getting very, I think somebody get killed inadvertently, or I'm not sure what the mechanics were, but his work ended up causing someone to die. And so he tries to be as dispassionate as he possibly can. He doesn't want to know these young people. He's doing a job. They're paying him well. He's well respected because of some of the techniques that he's pioneered. Great old actor again. Alan Garfield is terrific in the film. He doesn't want to get involved. This is not his fight. This is not his problem. But the more he listens to this recording, the more convinced he becomes that this mysterious director of this company is going to kill these two people. And he can't let that happen. And the movie goes from there. To me, the film is gripping. It is edge of the seat. Just not in a conventional way. Because the film reels you in and hooks you and makes you wonder what's going to happen. Are these two people going to die? Is Harry Cole going to be responsible for more mayhem, more bloodshed? Kind of excusing himself, well, I'm just doing a job. Jack Nicholson in Chinatown, same year. Make an honest living. Yeah, okay. He makes an honest living. Harry's great at what he does. This isn't my problem. I don't want to get involved in this, but can't help it. He finds himself getting very involved. And then you start saying, what do I do? What if these tapes get these two kids killed? Maybe I should just swallow them. So Gene is never less than compelling in the lead. And Harrison, I'm not going to spoil it, but he shows dramatic ability in this film that if you only know his later work, a lot of the sort of action hero type films, which I love, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. But Harrison's line readings in this movie, it's almost like they told him 8 years before Blade Runner, read your lines as if you are trained to sound like a robot or trained to not give a shit. He reads his lines in a kind of a flat, almost threatening way. And the way he makes eye contact with Gene. Like if you don't know who this is, if Harrison Ford is somehow unknown to you, you walk away from this movie saying, man, that was a good looking dude, but he was scary as fuck. And it was intentional. We're supposed to wonder, what's the story with this guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he not a bad guy? Is he just a guy doing his job? The theme of the movie, it deals with loss of privacy, right to privacy. Is eavesdropping ever okay? Well, what if the government, what if they're wrong? And paranoia. Paranoia. The feeling of, it's not paranoia if they really are after you. So Gene goes from hearing these kids becoming paranoid. I think that guy over there is looking at us or listening to us. And then he starts thinking, hey, they're listening to me. They might be looking at me. I might be in danger. He gets in very, very deep. You can argue too deep. Other people will say, no. He's got to risk it. What if they die? What if he causes more tragedy? He has to try to do something, whatever that is. And he's not an action hero. He's a fucking wiretapper. So even if you enter that arena, there's a question of, is this guy in over his head? Well, I don't know. I ain't spoiling this one for you. It's not on Netflix anymore. The only channel in which this is streaming free is the Pluto TV channel, which I don't think there's a subscription tier, but if there is, you should take it for $1 a month or whatever it is, because the problem with Pluto is just so many damn commercials. This is a movie that you want to see straight through. That's why it was great when it was on Netflix, and there are times it's been on, Amazon Prime streaming free. It builds slowly in intensity. And before you know it, it's like, holy shit. It's a film you have to be patient with. You have to let it work on you, become enveloped in the story of this guy, Harry Cole, and the characters he works with, and potential antagonists who may not actually be antagonists, or maybe they are. We're not really sure. And there's different levels of antagonism. There's a difference between, I think this person is listening to me and might do me harm, versus, I think this person is going to try to steal some of my secrets and fuck me in the ass. Professionally, I'll be okay, but maybe I won't make as much money going forward. Yeah, but what if you're dead? Well, that's a good point too. So The Conversation is an extraordinary film. And it was prescient as far as the sneaking suspicion that people's privacy was becoming more and more compromised, that it was more difficult to ever truly be alone with your thoughts, with whatever it is you want to do, even in the comfort of your own home. The phrase is, Big Brother is watching. And as I say, I won't spoil it. The movie doesn't turn out the way you expect. There are some very surrealist, kind of dreamlike sequences where we're at least temporarily not sure, wait, did this happen? Or is this just something that is Gene wondering if this maybe is what happened or what could happen? And there's a lot of this. But we watch a man who pretty much had it together. He's super private, doesn't want anybody looking at his mail or in any way being in his business. Like, he has the right idea. He doesn't want people to know what he's up to. He's a professional. People in the business respect him. Nobody needs to be checking out my mail. Nobody needs my phone number. No, thank you. The loss of privacy, the sense of creeping paranoia that you might be watched, somebody might be listening in. I mean, we're in the reality TV age here. Somebody's always listening in, potentially. It's possible. With GPS, they know where we are. Whoever they is, they know where we are at all times. The Conversation is an extraordinary film that gets my highest recommendation. And if somebody said, I think that's Francis Coppola's masterpiece. I love all 3 Godfather films, first 2 more so than the third. But I believe what he does in The Conversation is even more elevated. Not going to get any argument from me. I was only 17 the first time I saw The Conversation, and it hit the masterpiece button. And it's strange because there are movies that I should have loved in that era, like The Fisher King, didn't like it. Like Lawrence Kasdan's incredible Grand Canyon, didn't like that either. I had to rediscover it when I was in my early to mid-20s. How the fuck did I get The Fisher King this wrong? How did I think Grand Canyon was a misfire? What the fuck? First time I saw The Conversation, I was enthralled. I was absolutely, my jaw was on the floor at the end of the movie. I was like, holy shit, what a fucking movie. Way to go, Francis. Even though I didn't really know that much about Francis Coppola, I knew a little. So, almost 25 years later, Will Smith made a movie called Enemy of the State, which takes a lot of the concepts of we don't have any privacy anymore, Big Brother is watching. It takes the general idea of The Conversation and updates it for the coming of mega technology, of GPS, of being able to lock on a person's position in seconds. You couldn't do that in the 70s or the 80s or for most of the 90s. In Enemy of the State, Will Smith basically plays a Cary Grant, North by Northwest type of character. He's a brilliant Harvard lawyer or law graduate and lawyer who works out of DC. And he gets involved in this crazy scenario dealing with a loss of privacy and tapes that could incriminate certain people, and he's on the run. And during his investigation, he meets a guy by the name of Brill. I think his real name is supposed to be Lyle, but it's not really his name. He meets a guy named Brill, who is stop me if you've heard this before, a surveillance and wiretap expert, pissed off, used to work for the government and no longer does. Played by Gene Hackman, wearing the same glasses he wears in The Conversation. You can't tell me that Tony Scott, I believe was the filmmaker, you can't tell me that he didn't do that on purpose. You can't tell me that the character Gene plays in Enemy of the State, who ends up, spoiler alert, helping Will Smith's character, the Cary Grant type character, trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Why am I on the run? Why am I being chased? What is happening here? It's the same guy from The Conversation 24 years later. It's Harry Caul, older and pissed off. You could say the events of the movie The Conversation, he's still smarting over it. I don't want to work with any of these motherfuckers anymore. I don't want to work for the guy. Fuck him. It's one of Gene's angriest and funniest at the same time performances. But I like when Hollywood does callbacks like that, and obviously Gene knew what was going on, why they wanted him for the role. He embraced it, and Will and Gene, who bonded during filming, they all knew. Everyone knew. And in fact, there's a moment in the movie where the bad guys, John Voight, in yet another great 90s scenery-chewing villainous performance, just like he did in Coppola's other, one of his best films, The Rainmaker, just chewing it up, and in Anaconda, the wink after getting eaten whole by the anaconda, top 10 funniest movie moments in history. But John Voight plays a senator, and he's so dastardly that it's ridiculous. But he plays a senator, and there's a scene in the film where they're kind of pieced together that Will's character of Dean, Robert Clayton Dean, I forgot his name for a second. Will's character of Dean, they know that they're chasing him, he's on the run, and oh my God, this is the guy? And they have pictures of Gene Hackman. They took the pictures from The Conversation to use in Enemy of the State. Like, they're not really being subtle. They're hitting you over the head with, we don't give a shit if this guy's name, the character in this movie, if it's Brill or if it's Lyle. It's Harry Caul from The Conversation, all grown up and angrier than ever. I should say also, my dad liked the movie The Conversation. He loved Enemy of the State. That was his single favorite Will Smith film. Also loved I Am Legend, which is very, very brutal and depressing in its way. And a lot of other movies. But Enemy of the State, he used to watch whenever it was on in the days before streaming. And when it hit streaming, he hadn't seen it in a couple of years. I said, Dad, guess what? This is probably about, 2020. Could have been during COVID. I'm not even sure. Guess what? What? Enemy of the State streaming free on Tubi. Oh, shit. Let me put it on. Real-time reaction. He loved that movie. And I don't think we ever discussed the connection with The Conversation, because to be honest with you, when I first saw Enemy of the State, I didn't automatically, and I should have, but I didn't. It wasn't until somebody pointed out, you ever hear that fan theory? Wow. Yeah, now I do. And I buy it. Whole cloth. It's the same guy in Enemy of the State as The Conversation. And Enemy of the State, in a way, is a spiritual sequel to The Conversation because of the themes of paranoia, loss of privacy, and is it ever possible to truly be not watched? Can you ever be 100% sure that somebody isn't listening to you or knows exactly where you are? Big Brother is watching. And with that, we've reached the end of episode 147 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation turns 50. If you checked out this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you caught this episode on the audio platforms such as Spotify or iTunes, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. I'll be back with episode 148 real soon. Till then, peace out and enjoy the rest of your Monday.